The views expressed on this show do not represent those of NTV or its staff.
Good evening, viewers, those who are in Uganda and the diaspora. We are glad you have made NTV your #1 station. And NTV People's Parliament your favorite program. It's the only platform that gives Ugandans an opportunity to speak about issues that affect their everyday life. Tonight, we are in Gulu District, yet to discuss very important topic, and that is sexual violence. As you are aware, between 1987 and 2008, there was an armed conflict in northern Uganda that affected Gulu District, and most of our girls and ladies here suffered a lot during that war, and some of them, or most of them, were sexually abused by either the rebels or the armed people. So we are here to discuss how we can resettle these people, how we can, compensate them, and you'll hear from the victims who suffered sexual violence in northern Uganda during that conflict. Your speaker, Agnes Nanduto. You are welcome, honorable members, to this very important parliament, NTV, People's Parliament, and you are here to air out issues that affect Gulu District and probably the whole country, because what affects this district might affect another district. So you are here to discuss those issues. You are welcome. Before I set the ball rolling, I want to invite a lady from FIDA to give us a preamble of the status of those girls who were sexually abused during the conflict in northern Uganda. You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Munduru Masi Grace, and I work with FIDA Uganda. And I'm here to give a preamble of the question of sexual violence. We're going to restrict our discussion to sexual violence specifically during conflict. And having to pick Gulu is a representative of northern Uganda as a whole, and reflecting back at the situation of sexual violence during the protracted war that started between 1986 and 2006. We know that a lot of atrocities were committed during this war, which is not new to us. But among these atrocities that were committed was sexual violence, which was committed not just against women and girls, but also we know there are a couple of cases of sexual violence committed against men. This sexual violence was perpetrated both by the LRA, but we also have claims by other security forces as well. And the impact of sexual violence on women and girls and the men that were affected remains adverse. In the case of specifically women and girls, we know that some of the women had children out of these violations that were committed against them. And these children were either born during the war, and the women have had to return with them and exist with them in our communities. There were other impacts, both mental, psychosocial, and health-related effects on the survivors of violence. Since the war ended, until now, there have been efforts both by the state but also by non-state actors to offer some sort of support for these victims of sexual violence. We know that the development partners that have worked in northern Uganda have tried to give some form of support and relief in terms of building capacities of the survivors of sexual violence in northern Uganda. Beyond just what the development partners working in the area have done, the state itself has also given some form of recovery support to victims, generally, not just victims of sexual violence. We know there have been programs that have been developed specifically for northern Uganda to help them recover from the effects of the war. And we know the effect these programs have had in our place, but there are a lot of issues around the violations that remain addressed. One of the key steps and commitments of the state during the agreement was that the state would put in place comprehensive programs for transitional justice. The question that we ask ourselves until now is that 10 years later, these victims have received support from development partners. They've received a cluster of support from the state. How sustainable is this support? They continue to live with the effects of this war. These children are still with them. We know the poverty levels in northern Uganda is specifically high. We know the issues of acceptance within communities, issues of stigma, because these children do not have, some of them do not have clans, some of them do not know where their paternal origins are. So they continue to live with the mothers and they continue to experience the same challenges that these women and girls have experienced from the war until now. Okay. So our question is, how do we then forge a way forward, both as the state, but also as actors that are here today? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My name is Harriet Aloy Nyeko. I work for World Vision Gulu program. World Vision has been working in northern Uganda since 1995, focusing on the rehabilitation of the formerly abducted persons. Among these were survivors of sexual gender-based violence. And I want to bear witness with my colleague who provided a clear justification of this case, that truly formerly abducted women who have returned have been sexually violated in various forms. And so many of them returned while they were either expectant or with babies in their hands. Most of these children have grown. We have children as old as between 5 years to 25 years and above, now as children who are born in captivity. The plight of the children born from captivity are a real issue. At the time of implementation and interventions during the humanitarian support at that time, both government and civil society at that time were focusing on the ex-combatant, and the issues of the children born in captivity was not a paramount concern, because even the children that were returning then were really children. And so it was rather difficult to differentiate which should be a key entry point. And it's the reason that both government and civil society focus on the returnee with the mind that if returnees are rehabilitated fully in the community, they should be able to have capacity to be able to take care of their children. The bigger concern right now is that most of these children are rejected. The mothers are rejected by their families. And so the issues of paternity is a great concern. The children would want to know who their fathers are. And the mothers are in crossroads between telling the truth and not telling the truth. Because yes, for mothers who have been able to tell the truth, some of these paternal families are equally rejected because there is no indicator and evidence that show that these are their own children. And so even the maternity families where these children should belong has continued to have a great concern, especially on issues of inheritance, because we know that in our society, children belong to their paternal families. And so especially if it's a boy, the concern of inheritance of land has become a big concern. And so the livelihood aspects of this family remain an issue, because even when this mother remains at the maternal home, she does not have access to resources for productivity, and so majority of them wanders in the urban centers doing casual labor for survivors of the children, because they and their children are not rejected. If the mother is rejected and the child is not accepted, the mother does not feel at peace, and so it's the reason that many of them are really struggling on their own. Most of the boys and the youth that we find them struggling in town is for a similar reason, that they have grown. And so when you grow up as a man and you marry, you want to settle. But because there is no issues of identity which has been clarified, they get stranded. So this is a dilemma that I wish that we should discuss, both the concern of the mother, but also the victims, especially children born in captivity. What is going to be our stake, not only as government, but also as civil society, religious leaders, and cultural leaders? We should really discuss and have meaningful solutions for their future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I think you have seen it's a very big challenge that the country is facing. These children who were born in captivity, I'm sure they have not had formal education. I'm sure they are jobless as we begin. So as a country, what can we do?
And thank you,
Welcome,
Madam
Honorable
Chairperson
Member.
And members. I quite concur with the information given by our honorable members. The gender-based violence is bigger than what the problem, the beating of a wife or beating of a husband, or abusing the husband or the wife. The bigger picture is, besides the women who were abused by the rebels, many girls were abused by the soldiers in the camps, in the community, that they were used, and many of them were affected by HIV, and many of them gave birth to children whose fathers have gone away and left them. We have children from many tribes all over Uganda in Acholi land, and the fathers do not know about them. Some fathers have died, some mothers have died, and they are equally left like that with maternal relatives of the mother struggling to keep them. It is very true that sons of the former captives who came back from captivity have a dilemma of identity.
Okay.
Honorable Chairperson, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, the gathering. I'm called Mrs. Winifred Ofonya, and I work for Child Voice International. Child Voice International started way back in 2007, and right now we have trained about 140 child mothers. And these child mothers, most of them are from captivity. And what are their health status? I'm just going to talk about the health status of these mothers. These mothers, when they come with the different complications. Child Voice has really tried to rectify all those problems by taking them for operations in the hospital and also trying to make them right. And up to now, I'm just proud and glad to tell you that we have one who was abducted when she was just 9 years old and stayed for 15 years in captivity. And she came with different and serious complications. So I do concur with my colleagues what they are saying, that it has really left very big scar in girls and mothers of northern Uganda. And also the children who are born in captivity, they are being rejected by the community. Okay. And these guys, when they return back home, from home there, you find that the communities are still continuing to stigmatize them and giving life-threatening to their parents, of which the parents are now, instead of fears, they are just living in fears.
Okay.
What are we going to do? How can we help these parents, community, and as well as children born in captivity,
okay,
plus the mothers? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I had a hand here. Okay.
Madam Speaker, you realize that the issue of northern Uganda is still very complex. There were 3 core issues that the government was trying to work on. For over 10 years, it has never been passed. They're saying it's still being is still being discussed.
That's the justice policy.
Yes. Okay. Now, if you look at the reparation process, the compensation, then the access to justice, I'm trying to look at the compensation process. There are a number of key issues that the government has failed. So the question is, if the government wanted the Cholis or the former LRA victims to die, or they don't want these people to be rehabilitated, or they are looking for something. Now, for me, I'm very serious, and if you to go to prison now, there are a number of youth, okay, at the age of 20 to 35 that are being imprisoned. Now, if you're to question them, if you're to interrogate, if you're to ask, some of them are from the what? From the bush. So we are asking, now if the government cannot support these people, if the government cannot give a clear, or they cannot disseminate information how these people should be protected, then we are still at risk. Because anytime these people will again gather, and then war will erupt. So the best thing is we need more affirmative action on the ITJ policy, how these people should be supported, how these mothers should be reintegrated, and how these women, these young girls who are becoming mothers should be married. Very simple, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have you, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, honorable members. I'm called Barmas Henry. I'm the focal point person handling survivors of GBV in the Guru Regional Far Hospital. I have data of July 2016 to yesterday. 163 cases of sexual offenses. 163.
In how long?
From July 2016 to 16th November, which is yesterday. And honorable members, it is still a big problem. And of these 163 cases, 13 were young boys, and 150 were young girls. And most of these survivors, honorable members, ranges from the age of 3 to 16 years. And the majority of them lie between 12 years and 16 years, honorable members.
So even after the war, there is still a lot of sexual violence.
Yeah, looking at this, Madam Speaker and honorable members, I'm in the desk which handles the whole of Acholi sub-region.
And who are the culprits?
Honorable Speaker and members, if I can be allowed to finish this data, then I will come to that, Your Honorable.
I'm giving you 1 minute, please.
Yes. So I segregated this according to the age. Those who were, of this 163, those who were below 5 years were 4%, and those who were which ranges from 5 to 9 years were 12%. Those who were over 10 years were 86%. And I got challenged on 14th. On 14th of this month, that was a few days ago, about 2 days ago, I saw 6 cases of sexual offenses. And these were, I got perturbed, in fact, on that day. Because one of the girls was pregnant, she was 14 years, and she was pregnant, 3 months, and she was convincing me to convince the mother, her mother, to allow her to get married to this boy. So, honorable members, we still have a big problem. Then another one had, on the very day, the perpetrator, who was the suspect, was arrested, and this girl refused to get out of police, demanding that he needs to go with his husband. And this girl was 14 years.
Thank you. I think you have heard the voices of the people of Gulu. Let's go for a short break, and when we come back, we are going to hear testimonies from the victims themselves who have suffered this sexual violence. Yes, welcome back. You are still watching NTV People's Parliament, sitting here in Gulu district. The war is over, but these people are still nursing the wounds of war. Let's hear from the victims. I'm happy that these people are free to talk about what they went through. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm called Planam Stella Angel. Women are suffering a lot in northern Uganda. When their capture us, the government didn't protecting us. We came back home, the government has given us the amnesty. Like Miss Stella, they adopted me when I was just 10 years. I produced with 14 years. We come back up to now. Any single government, they didn't supporting us up to now. We are still struggling with our children, just like that. And as now I'm talking, our children, they are not studying up to today. Even in the village, nobody can save these children. We try with our level best as a mother to come together to show the government that we are citizens for Uganda. We can do even some things in Uganda. I request you, Madam Speaker, and some NGOs, we work together. We want government to pay us as a women in northern Uganda to
Compensation.
give reparation to pay our children the scholarship in northern Uganda, because even now they pay the people, the children in Uganda in scholarship. Also, we need government to pay our children in the school. Even the police in the village, if our children go there with some other children for the people, they just say that you did these things, your father was killing. It is not wish for the mother to just go there. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Yes, she has narrated to us. She came back with the children. She didn't go to school herself. even her children are not going to school. So she's asking that government gives scholarships to these victims of the war. Let's hope the powers that be are listening in. Please, you have the podium.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Madam Speaker. My name is Joe Wawili. I'm a blogger. From 1986 up to date, it's still a long time. But when people are speaking here, no one is telling us what's bringing this. What's the cause of the problem we are talking about today? Because we are talking about the transitional policy. For how long has this been in the cabinet? So what I'm talking about today is we have no documentation of people who lost their lives during the war in northern Uganda. A clear documentation, household per household in northern Uganda. They are not there. And this lady they're talking about today, there's some people who were raped by us in the IDP camps. Do we have documentation of people who raped their own from the IDP camps? Unless we have a clear documentation of what happened in northern Uganda, we cannot solve the problem we are talking about today. It's beyond what we are saying here. If maybe the government had will for the people of northern Uganda, by now we could have been having what they call a clear documentation of people who lost their lives in northern Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Please.
I'm Kola Bay Santa. I'm the one of the victims. I was abducted in 1994. I stayed in the bush for 10 years. I come out in 2004. So I have a child also. In Australia, if you give birth far, people did not see you as a family members. Like for us here, they took us in the captivities. We come, we don't have any work to do. We don't have even any certificate. So in the village there, they see you as somebody who is disabled. So the problem we are facing here, we don't have land. As the victims here, we are sitting around in here in town, renting houses, and our children, they are not studying in a good school. Okay. So we come out that the government should see us as a citizen of Uganda.
Okay.
We are not a fighter, but the government gave us amnesty.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Thank you for that. It is really touching. Their children have not gone to school. They have not gone to school. They don't have land. Neither do their children have land because they are rejected in community. So, as Ugandans, how can we handle these people? Please, Honorable, you have the platform.
Madam Speaker, I am Edward from Laibi. Before the war, northern Uganda, issues about sexual violence was very minimal. But during the war, it accelerated. Most especially when people were brought into the IDP camps. That was when many sexual violence came into existence. And most of the children were born even within the IDP camps.
So these people were not only sexually abused in the bush, but also in the camps where they're supposed to be protected.
Not only in the bush, even in the IDP camps. Because in the IDP camps, people were having very limited space of accommodation. Maybe a hut or maybe two, and the children are there. Maybe you have 8 or 6 or 5. Now, where do you take them? You sleep with them together almost in the house. And of course, you know the socialization of the people in the IDP camps is terrible. That is where people learn a lot of sexual violence, even the children that are born in the IDP camps. Not only that, issues to do with the food security and income generation at household level became very minimal because now people cannot access cultivation, and so people look for ways of survival. And in the process of doing that, people were now getting sexually abused. And this sexual violence is not only men to women, even women to men or to young people were also being done. And so I want to say that even in the churches where we are, there are so many young girls or young women and children that are in the churches. The church is trying its level best to see how best can these people be supported. And definitely I want to appreciate the survivors and one of my colleagues who was saying that the government needs to do a lot more than what it has done. Sincerely, all of us as parents, we are trying our level best. But Madam Speaker, do not forget that northern Uganda is in a poverty situation. The poverty level in northern Uganda is still very high. What is the government doing to support the people of northern Uganda? We also need to be well so that we can support our people. We can support the extended families. And this is the gist of my issue, the idea about sexual violence in northern Uganda. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
I'm called Evelyn Amon. I work with the victim. Also, I'm also victims.
She was abducted when she was 12 years old. She stayed with LRA for 15 years. 11 years. She underwent a lot of problems. The most important thing she wants to talk about is the difficulties that the children who are born from captivity underwent. Each one of us know that the war in northern Uganda took so many years, and the children born there suffered a lot. The war has brought a lot of hatred among the Cholis, especially when you come back from captivity with the children. They think that you are brought for them and other problems, or lots of problems.
Inoni family mo kana gurwenyo dano ge ma ka ini chiaro kila tien menywalo ki lum kuno la cho wa irni ana a ke ka moni ki palar ini chiar kuno community ge wa cha den pe ngoma nyurni eni la tien wa nyo la tien pa wodwa dong yo ngoma be konyo wa kere wa non ka ki palitiam.
Indeed, problems happen among the Choli people. Especially the man can tell you that, okay, I'm going to marry you. And then when you are pregnant and you come back to the clan of the man, the people will say that, what is the evidence? What shows that you are from this clan? And that one brings a lot of problems.
Actually, when you process minyom metie la chote karage nyur yanati bot karage ento make one dong chogwa ne waberu ke pe chogwa ento karme lwen waberu ki choni nyota eno beru pe dong yo ngoma watwer timne wek jo eni go ye ni eno la tien me kara eni marai lo li tien wobe dong go da do giti mer ngeo karage ni eno gi ni eno giti ka yelo do nyore gi mi nyota gi kwene kana ganga won giti ye.
Indeed, we know that in a proper actually marriage and culture, there are actually processes to be followed. But for them, in their case, it was not done in that way. You find that they just found themselves staying with those men, and their children that they produce with those men have become big. They want their identity. So she's really requesting the government to stand and help them. That is her last request. God
Thank
bless
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being open and talk about what you went through either in the camp or in the bush. Thank you that you have been open such that the powers that be, that government may listen to you and maybe hurry up the policies that are supposed to help your children and yourself. Yes, I think you have heard the voices from Gulu district. These are the voices that generally represent the whole of northern Uganda that was in Nyo for very, very many years. The war is over, but the wounds are still being nursed. There are problems that are still very pertinent, and government needs to come in and solve them. Let's go for a short break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about how government can resettle these people and help the children that were born in captivity. NTV People's Parliament comes back shortly. Yes, welcome back. You are still watching NTV People's Parliament, sitting here in Gulu District discussing the effects of war. As I earlier told you that the war is done, there is peace, but the effects of war still stand. But as government, what can we do? As the people of Uganda, what can we do to ensure that these people live a good life? Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members of Parliament. I'm going to be very quick. My name is Faith. One thing that I think the government can do, the government can decide to identify these people and see a way of compensating them in one way or the other. The other one is education, could be academic or technical institution. Government needs to give access to health, could be HIV, AIDS, or maternal health for the victims and the children also. And the other thing, as community and government as well, the leaders need to be able to sensitize the communities to accept these people, and that they should not be stigmatized. And finally, you know, there are other interventions economically, what businesses or what access to income or businesses can they have. And I want to say the police and the state need to work at the perpetrators who are currently doing this and make sure they are dealt with accordingly. And finally, I don't want to leave out our spiritual leaders, because some of these things are spiritual issues. We need prayers, we need support to support them in our churches, as well as accept them wherever they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please.
Honorable Speaker and all the members at large, please. Why can't we identify a project strictly for these victims so that they can also benefit from it, rather than bringing the top officials and, you know, then the CSOs, this also goes to us. Sometimes I pity how we implement our activities. It's not just a matter of picking somebody from the bush, facilitating her and leaving her at that level. Maybe let's go further step to visit them and see there's a change that you can also feel this household has really improved. And lastly, when we look in Gulu district, there's a lot of insecurity apparently, and we normally call them Agwo or street kids. They are beating up people, stealing from people, and etc. And it has come to my notice, some of these victims are, of course, the people who are born from the bush. They have got nowhere to go, and their mothers who could support them cannot even go and bail them from the police. They are being arrested, stay there after sometimes either you're taken to prison or released, you come back, you do the same thing. Okay. So the gap still goes back to the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Honourable Member, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Madam, all what we are talking here, I'm the one facing the challenge there. Because as I talk, this morning, we have like 1,534 prisoners. They are inside the prison. And most of them are youth. But this is what we are trying to do for them. They're in prison. We have a school from nursery up to senior 2. And they are doing well. Then other thing which we have there, we have...
Are some of them those people who were born in captivity and
Exactly.
who came back from the bush?
Both.
Okay.
We're also trying to teach them with basket weaving. And they're earning a lot from there. But our challenge is one. When we release these people and they go back to the community, they are not being accepted. Somebody stays out maybe for 1 month, you find him back to prison. So my appeal to you is, when we release these people from prison, you help them. You have enough land. When he comes with his road pass, because normally when we are releasing them, we give them something which shows that this man has been in prison, he has completed this sentence, and he knows how to do like ABCD. You accept them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just as the lady said, I think the community needs sensitization to accept these people in the community and work together with them. Please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, the members of the Parliament. I'm called Margaret Ayo from Gulo Main Prison. Much as we are talking so much about justice, justice can only and only be achieved by the government through, one, promotion and implementation of the rehabilitative programs. One, why I'm saying this, it is because when we prepare these people, we give them programs that really will make them go and earn a living as they are reintegrated back to the communities. These people have everything at hand. They have the knowledge, they have the ability to do whatever thing it takes to earn a living. And not only that, as we create the rehabilitative centers or rehabilitation centers, we have to support them as they go back. If somebody has learned tailoring, what does it take for her to go and continue doing tailoring? We have to support them with the materials to go back to the community. So it is the work of the government to come and join hands to ensure that women and the victims are fully supported in the rehabilitative programs. Okay. And also another thing is promotion, the declaration and promotion of the rights of the children and the victims who are women. It must be clearly spelled out by the government. It is not only me, it is not only you, but it is the government to come out boldly and form a forum in the community that will ensure that women's rights, children's rights are clearly protected and well spelled and understood by everybody in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A very good way forward. I think one lady mentioned that she was abducted by the rebels, taken to the bush. When she came back, she was forced to apply for amnesty. She was innocent. She did not go to fight. And I'm hearing that even the children who were born in captivity and do not have fathers also commit crimes and they end up in prison. The world is not fair. Yes, let's go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We need a body that stands there in Parliament, or in the District Council, that articulates issues which are related to matters pertaining to the war which has been happening in northern Uganda. I think the people that we need to put here are people who have more experience on what transpired in northern Uganda here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
1 minute, please.
Members of Parliament. What should be done way forward? We need data for the GBV cases currently, because data will help us to plan and then come up with a way forward. Secondly, we need needs assessment. We don't know exactly what is going on with these victims. So why don't we do needs assessment to come out with exactly what can be done to help them out? Then thirdly, perpetrators currently need to face the law. We need to really let justice prevail.
Please, you have the podium.
Let's scale up economic empowerment, because I've seen it work. VSLA, most of these women are in Boli troops. Let's scale up the money, the capital that they are getting so that they can improve on their livelihoods and also deal with the immediate situations or problems that they are facing, if it's medical, if it's school fees for their children.
Okay.
For some, they still have medical issues, that is to do with gynecological situations or health rehabilitation. Let's increase on those. For the people that got limbs way back, there's need for them to continue going back to health facilities and getting these limbs changed.
Okay, thank you. You have the podium.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Honorable Speaker and parliamentarians. My name is Oketayot Simon. I work with Whitaker Peace and Development Initiative. When you look at some of these perpetrators of sexual gender-based violence, when they are got and reported to the police, sometimes due to the economic situations that they go through, you find themselves, the case being taken outside to go and, sort it from outside. And to some extent, these perpetrators end up paying the other party, and they go free. The next time you find the same case has repeated itself. Okay. So in one way or the other, we need to strengthen our justice team in as far as providing justice to the victims.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker and honorable members, I'm Inspector Gwang Moses, Community Liaison Officer, Gulu. The government need to construct a rehabilitation center targeting this youth so that some of these people may not be interested in going to primary and secondary education, but they can be empowered by skilling them. And that rehabilitation center should not be seen as prison, because if somebody is in prison, is putting on, there is a way they handle it. Much as you are trying to rehabilitate him, but he thinks he's on punishment. Okay. But if we could get them on those streets, and immediately they are relocated in those rehabilitation centers, and they are handled in a way of skilling them and counseling them, I think that would do us a service. Thank you.
Thank you, Afande. Yes, Mase, in 2 minutes, please, can you have a way forward on how to handle the victims of
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I thank all the members who have given very comprehensive views on the question of sexual violence in conflict. And I would like to say that everything we have said goes back to the state. There's nothing which is more sustainable than what a state can do. Today we have NGOs in this place, but they're going to close because they depend on funding. Most of them have closed. This is not the situation as it was in 2008, 2009 when we had many NGOs. Most of them have closed. But you can see the challenges of the survivors of sexual gender-based violence continues up to now. Why? Because some of the solutions that were got at the time were sustainable for that period. But some of these challenges are long-term, and they cannot be sustained by a single NGO, or even if we had 10 NGOs. It all goes back to the state. And we'd like to remind the state that 10 years is a long time for us to have a comprehensive transitional justice policy in place. And within a transitional justice policy, we must have a proper reparations program that addresses these needs that have been raised by the victims. Yes, we have had programs in northern Uganda, but you realize, Honorable Speaker, that some of these programs have been made by corruption, and as a result, they've not achieved the objectives that they were set out to achieve. And these are general programs that sometimes don't meet the specific needs of the victims of the war. We need deliberate programs that are developed and that are tailored to meet these needs that have been raised here today. Okay. Otherwise, we are risking the lives of our people. We are putting the lives of the youth in this area in danger. And I believe the state has the resources that are available to tailor these programs that will meet these needs that have been raised here today. Okay. So first on the agenda is to speed up the transitional justice policy to ensure that it is out and that it meets the needs of these people, and that also to support the structures. I had people talking about the religious leaders, but also the justice actors and other actors that are on ground, to make sure that they're facilitated to support the communities to recover and to recover properly. Okay. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, honourable members, for being part of this parliament. It has been a very interesting parliament talking about sexual, gender-based violence, most especially those cases that happened in the camps or in the bush. Because of time constraints, we cannot continue. Thank you for being part of this parliament, those who have been watching. I think you have heard the voices from Gulu district that almost represent northern Uganda. What they are demanding for is a transitional justice policy. Members of parliament, I think you've been watching, please work on that to ensure that we resettle these victims of the war. Of course, as I always told you, I aspire to inspire all Ugandans before I expire. With powers conferred upon me as the Speaker of People's Parliament, I adjourn this House until next Saturday.
The views expressed on this show do not represent those of NTV or its staff.